The first sighting of the alien ships was almost poetic in its beauty, if it weren't for the chaos that followed. The massive vessels, darker than the void they came from, appeared suddenly over the horizon. By the time the world's governments realized what was happening, the skies were filled with a swarm of them. The ships weren't just in orbit, they were directly above the major cities of Earth. New York, London, Tokyo, each was a target. The first explosion struck London. The city's iconic skyline was shattered as an energy beam lanced down from one of the alien ships. The force was so powerful that it turned the tallest buildings into nothing more than rubble. People screamed, running in every direction, only to be caught by the next wave of destruction. Within moments, the heart of the United Kingdom's capital had turned into an inferno. It wasn't just London. Soon after, beams of unimaginable power rained down across the globe. Paris, Berlin, Los Angeles, each of them fell as the alien ships launched their devastating assault. The aliens were thorough, calculating, and terrifying. They were more advanced than humanity could even fathom. No one knew where they came from or why they were here, but their message was clear. Earth was no longer its own. Captain Elena Hawke was in Denver when it happened. She had just returned from a training exercise, her mind on other things when the alert came through. At first, it seemed like some kind of drill. The alien ships didn't look real. Surely, this was some kind of hoax. But when the first explosion echoed through the atmosphere, she knew it was all too real. She could hear the panic in the voices on the radio, the crackling orders to evacuate. But the military command was already breaking down. Her instincts took over, and within minutes, she was running through the streets, trying to reach her military base. The sounds of sirens filled the air, and chaos spread like wildfire. People were running, screaming, but there was nowhere to go. The devastation was so sudden, so overwhelming, that the usual response to attack, organized defense, seemed impossible. Everyone was caught off guard. As she reached the base, Elena found it deserted. The soldiers scattered, their equipment abandoned. The invaders had already hit key military points. Some tried to fight back, but the weapons in their hands seemed insignificant against the aliens' advanced technology. Elena could feel the weight of helplessness in her chest. The world was falling apart, and there was nothing she could do to stop it. She quickly reached a small group of survivors, a handful of soldiers who had escaped the initial wave. They were shaken, but determination burned in their eyes. Elena, ever the leader, knew she had to give them something, anything, to hold on to. "This isn't over," she said, her voice hardening. "We're not going to let them destroy us without a fight. We'll make them regret underestimating us." The soldiers looked at her, unsure, but something in Elena's voice sparked a flicker of hope in their eyes. Her mind raced. There had to be a way to fight back, even if they couldn't match the aliens' firepower. They would have to adapt, think like humans, and do what no alien could predict. Earth's greatest strength wasn't in its weapons. It was in the heart of its people. As the night sky burned with the lights of destruction, Elena made a silent vow. Humanity would not fall without a fight. They had only just begun to wake up, and the aliens were about to learn the hardest lesson of all: never underestimate humankind. The days following the initial wave of destruction were chaotic. Governments crumbled, communications failed, and entire countries descended into panic. The world was on the brink of collapse. But amidst the ruins, something unexpected began to stir: a resistance. Small groups of survivors, desperate to survive, rallied together and began fighting back. Elena's team, which had initially banded together out of necessity, became a symbol of hope. What started as a ragtag group of soldiers and civilians turned into something more, something dangerous. The first victory came when Elena and her team managed to steal an alien communication device from a downed ship. It was a small triumph, but it was enough to spark something larger. The aliens had never anticipated this. They had expected Earth to roll over and surrender. Instead, humans were adapting, learning, and using the alien technology against them. It was a strange twist of fate. The aliens, so advanced in their weaponry, had overlooked one thing: the unpredictability of humanity. They had failed to account for human creativity, the kind of thinking that could outsmart even the most sophisticated systems. And that's exactly what happened. Elena and her team began to reverse engineer the alien tech they had scavenged, learning how to use it against them. They didn't have the same firepower, but they had something the aliens couldn't replicate: their determination. The first significant attack came when Elena's team infiltrated an alien stronghold in the remains of what was once Chicago. The stronghold was heavily guarded, but the humans had an advantage. They knew their city better than any alien could. They set traps, used the environment to their advantage, and made it clear to the invaders that they weren't dealing with an easy target. The strike was swift, taking down key infrastructure and disabling communication systems that had been keeping the alien forces in control. As the alien troops scrambled to regroup, Elena's team slipped back into the shadows, leaving behind nothing but destruction and confusion. It was a minor victory, but it sent a clear message to the invaders: humans were not to be underestimated. As word spread, more survivors joined the growing resistance. They came from all walks of life: soldiers, scientists, farmers, and civilians. They all had one thing in common: they refused to die without a fight. Elena's leadership was pivotal, not just because of her military experience, but because of her unwavering belief in humanity's strength. She knew that even in the face of overwhelming odds, people would rise to defend what was theirs. The resistance movement spread like wildfire across the world. In every corner of Earth, humans began to fight back. Makeshift armies emerged, using alien technology to craft weapons, disrupt alien communications, and sabotage the invaders' supply chains. The aliens, still confident in their superiority, underestimated the scale of the human uprising. Their forces, which had once seemed unstoppable, began to show cracks. But Elena knew that the war was far from over. The aliens would not simply retreat, they would retaliate with even more force. Still, for the first time since the invasion began, Elena allowed herself to believe in a future where humanity could survive. The aliens had believed they could break the human spirit, but they were about to learn that it was unbreakable. As the resistance regrouped and prepared for the next phase of their fight, Elena stood on the edge of a ruined city, looking out at the horizon. The battle had just begun, and she could feel the weight of what lay ahead. But one thing was certain: the invaders had made a grave mistake. They had awakened something in humanity, a force they would never be able to extinguish. "We will fight," Elena whispered to herself, "and we will win." As the resistance grew stronger, so did the alien response. The invaders had underestimated humanity's ability to adapt, and now they were beginning to panic. Their early confidence began to crack. The first signs of weakness came when their forces, once unstoppable, started to falter. They had been used to conquering worlds without resistance, but Earth, with its unpredictable and resourceful people, was something entirely different. The aliens responded with overwhelming force, launching raids on major human strongholds. Cities were razed, entire neighborhoods vaporized. The invaders tried to crush the spirit of humanity by targeting the heart of Earth's population, its people. But each time they attacked, they only ignited a deeper rage within the human resistance. Every fallen city sparked the formation of new resistance cells, each one more determined than the last. Captain Elena Hawke, now one of the leading figures of the resistance, stood at the front lines, watching the destruction unfold. She could see the toll it was taking on the survivors, on the children, on the elderly, on the families who had already lost everything. But she also saw something else in their eyes: defiance. Despite the odds, they refused to surrender. There was a strength in humanity that the aliens still didn't understand. One night, as Elena and her team were scouting a new alien facility in what was once Washington, D.C., they uncovered a chilling piece of information. Hidden deep in the wreckage of a downed alien ship was a data core, one that contained detailed records of the alien coalition's conquests. As Alina accessed the files, she learned a horrifying truth. These invaders had obliterated countless civilizations before Earth, each one falling without even a whimper of resistance. The files revealed the extent of the alien conquest, showing that they had destroyed entire species, wiping out worlds in a single stroke. They had treated Earth's people as no more than insects, something to be crushed underfoot. But now, Alina realized, they had made a fatal error. Humanity had not gone quietly. They had fought back, and the aliens were now facing something they had never encountered before, an enemy that would not break. Armed with this knowledge, Alina called for an urgent meeting with her inner circle. As they huddled in the dimly lit basement of a makeshift command center, she shared the grim details of what they were up against. "We're not the first," she said, her voice grim but resolute. "They've done this before, but we can't let them finish what they started here." The room fell silent, the weight of her words sinking in. The invaders weren't just here to conquer. They were here to erase humanity's existence, to erase Earth from the cosmos. But Alina was no longer afraid. Her anger burned brighter than ever. The people of Earth had a right to exist, and she would make sure they did. She began to outline a bold new strategy, one that would strike at the heart of the alien coalition. They would stop fighting small battles and instead aim for something far more dangerous: the alien fleet. If they could cripple the invaders' command structure, they might just have a chance to push them back. It was a risky move. The alien ships were powerful, and their fleets were vast. But Alina knew they couldn't afford to wait. The longer the aliens remained in control, the harder it would be to fight them. "We've already taken down their communications. We've already proven they're not invincible," Alina said, her eyes fierce with determination. "Now it's time to hit them where it hurts. If we take out their fleet, we cripple their ability to wage war. And then we fight for the future of our planet." The room erupted in agreement. It was a long shot, a dangerous plan that could cost them everything. But it was their only option. Earth's resistance had ignited a spark. Now they had to turn that spark into a fire that would burn through the alien empire. "We fight together, or we die alone," Alina declared. The words were simple, but they carried the weight of the entire human race. The aliens had made the mistake of thinking humanity would fall. But now, they would discover the true cost of underestimating the people of Earth. The resistance had begun to find its rhythm. Small victories became more frequent, and the once fragmented human forces were now beginning to coordinate. The alien ships above Earth still cast shadows over the planet, but they no longer struck fear into the hearts of humanity. They were no longer the invincible overlords they had once been. The tide was turning, and the humans were riding the wave of defiance, desperation, and ingenuity. Captain Alina Hawk stood before her newly formed command center, a modest building built from the remnants of a long-abandoned military base. The hum of radio transmissions filled the room, as resistance leaders from across the globe worked to synchronize their next moves. Alina could feel the weight of responsibility on her shoulders. Every decision she made could be the difference between life and death for thousands of people. The world was watching, waiting for their next strike. They had already hit several major alien supply lines, crippling their ability to keep advancing. It was a small but significant victory, but Alina knew it wasn't enough. The aliens were still far too strong. If humanity was to have any hope of surviving, they would need to take a more aggressive step, a direct attack on the alien fleet. She'd spent weeks planning it. The risks were enormous. If they failed, Earth could be lost forever. But there was no more time to hesitate. Every day the aliens stayed in orbit, their hold on Earth grew tighter. The alien ships were preparing to launch a final assault, one that would wipe out the remaining resistance and leave Earth in ruin. Alina's plan involved a desperate mission to destroy one of the alien command ships, an enormous vessel that served as both their flagship and the hub for their fleet's coordination. The ship was heavily guarded, and getting close enough to it seemed almost impossible. But Elena had a secret weapon. The alien tech that had been reverse-engineered by human scientists. They had discovered a weakness in the aliens' technology, a flaw in their shields that could be exploited if they could just get close enough. Elena gathered her most trusted team, a handful of soldiers, engineers, and scientists who had been working day and night to refine the weapon. Their target, the alien mothership, the one at the center of the fleet. It was surrounded by an armada of smaller ships, but they had one advantage. The aliens had been focused on suppressing human uprisings in major cities, leaving their fleet slightly less protected. Elena's heart raced as she reviewed the plan one last time. The risks were high, but the potential reward was too great. If they could disable the mothership, it would cripple the alien coordination and give humanity the edge it so desperately needed. The plan was to infiltrate a section of the mothership's outer hull using a stolen alien shuttle, which had been modified to carry explosives capable of penetrating their shield system. Once inside, they would set the charges and make their escape before the ship was destroyed. It was a suicide mission, and everyone involved knew it. But they also knew it was their best chance at victory. As Elena briefed the team on the final details, she could see the same steely resolve in their eyes that had been present when they first came together. They had all lost something to this war: families, homes, futures, but now they had one goal: to take down the enemy that had ravaged their world. "Remember," Elena said, her voice cutting through the tension in the room. "This is our shot. We take down that ship, and we change the course of this war. We may not all make it out, but we're doing this for everyone who's counting on us." The team nodded in unison. There were no words of doubt, only a shared understanding of what had to be done. As they boarded the modified shuttle, Elena took one last look at the world below. Earth was battered, scared, but still standing, and as long as it stood, they would fight. The shuttle's engines roared to life, and the team made their way toward the heart of the alien fleet. For the first time in the war, the aliens were about to feel the true weight of humanity's fury. The shuttle shot through the sky, its engines humming in a low, steady rhythm as Elena's team approached the alien mothership. Earth's atmosphere was still scorched, the remnants of burning cities casting a sickly glow against the darkening horizon. Elena glanced out the small porthole, her mind a storm of thoughts, her emotions barely contained. She wasn't sure if they would make it back. The odds were slim. But this was it, their one shot. The mothership loomed ahead, its massive shape dwarfing the rest of the alien fleet. It was an impenetrable fortress, designed to intimidate, but it wasn't invincible. Elena knew that. The intelligence they had gathered showed the weakness in the alien shield technology. They had found a way in, but they had no idea how long the breach would last once they were inside. They had only one chance to make it count. As the shuttle neared the ship's outer hull, Elena's team prepared for the most dangerous part of the mission. The shields flickered intermittently, a brief opening showing the weak point. The shuttle's pilot, a former military strategist named Max, skillfully maneuvered the ship into the narrow gap, the turbulence from the mothership's shields shaking their vessel. The others gripped their seats, hearts pounding as the shuttle passed through the defensive barriers and into the dark belly of the mothership. The inside of the mothership was a labyrinth of steel corridors and alien technology. The walls hummed with power, pulsing with a rhythm that made the air feel alive. Elena and her team disembarked, quickly making their way down a long, narrow hall. There was no time to waste. Their explosives, set to trigger once they reached the central control room, had to be planted in exactly the right location to take down the ship's communication and power systems. Every step they took felt like a countdown. The tension was palpable. They knew the aliens would be aware of their presence soon enough, but they moved swiftly, using their knowledge of the mothership's design to navigate through the maze-like corridors. Elena had led her team through countless missions before, but this one felt different. This was no longer just about fighting. This was about survival, humanity's survival. Suddenly, a distant clang echoed through the hallway. Elena's heart skipped a beat. They were not alone. The alien patrols had detected them. "Stay sharp," Elena whispered, signaling her team to spread out. They pressed themselves against the cold metal walls, listening for the telltale sounds of alien footsteps. Max, the pilot, cursed under his breath. "They got reinforcements on the way. We're running out of time." Elena didn't hesitate. "We push forward. If we don't plant these explosives, all of this is for nothing." They moved faster now, every footstep a potential death sentence. The alien patrols would be close, and the noise in the hallways was only growing louder. Elena could feel the sweat trickling down her back as they approached the control room. It was just ahead, the heavy door looming like an ominous wall. Then, without warning, the aliens appeared. A group of 6 heavily armed soldiers rounded the corner, their alien eyes glowing with cold intelligence. They raised their weapons instantly, but Elena and her team reacted faster. The fight was brutal. Elena's team had the element of surprise, but the aliens' strength and speed made them formidable opponents. The firefight was over in a matter of seconds, but it felt like an eternity. Elena ducked behind a nearby crate, breathing heavily as one of the aliens' weapons hissed past her, narrowly missing her head. "Now," she yelled. The explosives were in place. The team scattered to set their charges, planting them along the most critical points of the ship's systems. Elena kept her eyes on the countdown clock. They didn't have long. As the last charge was set, the countdown began. "Let's go," she urged. "We're not sticking around for the fireworks." They ran, hearts pounding in their chests, desperate to get back to the shuttle before the explosion took everything down. The aliens were regrouping now, their roars of frustration echoing through the metal walls. Elena led her team back toward the shuttle, knowing that the hardest part was still ahead. With the ship's systems starting to crack, the countdown raced toward 0. As they burst into the shuttle bay and took off, Elena looked back at the massive mothership. It was now or never. She didn't know if they would make it out, but she knew this. This was humanity's moment. The sky above Earth was about to shatter. The shuttle blasted out of the mothership's docking bay, its engines roaring as they pushed it away from the massive alien vessel. Elena's heart pounded in her chest, her breath coming in sharp, desperate gasps. The countdown timer on her wrist was ticking down, its red digits glowing ominously. They had mere minutes before the explosives detonated, and with them, a chunk of the alien fleet. Max, the shuttle pilot, handled the controls with the precision of a seasoned warrior, weaving through the chaos of alien ships that had already started to react to the intrusion. A massive beam of energy from a nearby ship grazed the shuttle's wing, sending a violent jolt through the craft. Elena slammed her hand against the side of the control panel, cursing under her breath. "Max, we can't outrun them forever," she shouted, her voice tense. "We need to get out of their firing range." Max didn't respond with words but simply nodded, his jaw clenched in concentration. The shuttle swerved, dodging another incoming shot as the alien ships closed in. Their weapons were powerful, but the shuttle's speed was their only advantage now. Elena could see the mothership in the distance, still looming ominously, its shields flickering faintly as though it were struggling to maintain power. The seconds felt like hours as they weaved between the alien vessels, narrowly avoiding beams of devastating energy. Elena could only pray that the charges were planted deep enough to cause the kind of damage they needed. The last thing they wanted was for the explosives to be anything less than catastrophic. 5 minutes, Max said, his voice a low growl, his hand steady on the controls. Elena tightened her grip on the edge of her seat, her eyes flicking between the chaos outside the shuttle's windows and the countdown on her wrist. She couldn't afford to think about what would happen if they didn't make it. The resistance was counting on them. Humanity was counting on them. They were in the final stretch now. The shuttle systems beeped a warning as an alien ship closed in, aiming its weapons directly at them. Elena could see the glowing tip of the energy cannon charging up, and her instincts kicked in. Max, evasive maneuvers, now. He pulled the shuttle into a sharp dive, sending the craft spiraling toward the ground. The energy blast from the alien ship missed by mere inches, but it sent a shockwave through the shuttle, rattling it violently. Alina fought to keep herself steady, gripping the armrests as the shuttle shot back up into the sky. "How much longer?" Alina asked, her voice tense with urgency. Max's eyes flicked to the readout. "Less than 3 minutes. We're cutting it close." "Hold on," Alina said, her voice steady despite the adrenaline flooding her veins. She turned to the rest of the team. "Get ready. When those charges go off, we need to be at full speed. No hesitation." The team nodded, their faces a mixture of determination and exhaustion. They had been through hell together, and now they would see this mission through, no matter the cost. Max angled the shuttle toward a nearby ridge, hoping the alien ships would be fooled by their trajectory. They would have to use the terrain as cover. The ground below was scorched, the remnants of a destroyed city visible from the air, but there was no time to mourn what had been lost. Not yet. The countdown on Alina's wrist ticked down. 2 minutes. 1 minute. Max's voice broke through the tension. "Here they come. They're firing everything they have." Alina's eyes locked onto the alien ships, their weapons charging up. A split second later, a series of blinding explosions erupted in the distance. The sky was set ablaze. The charges had detonated. The mothership's shields flickered and collapsed in an instant, sending a massive shockwave through the alien fleet. The mothership itself began to break apart, its hull splintering as fire and debris erupted from its core. The remaining alien ships scrambled in panic, but their coordination was shattered. They were lost without their flagship. But the fight wasn't over. The remaining alien ships still had their weapons, and they were closing in fast. "Hold on," Max yelled as he pulled the shuttle into another sharp dive, narrowly avoiding a barrage of energy fire. Alina's mind raced. This was it. The aliens had lost their command ship, but they were still a threat. She looked at her team, knowing they had just bought Earth a brief moment of respite, but it wouldn't last long. They needed to finish this. They needed to hit the invaders where it hurt most, before it was too late. And as the shuttle raced through the flames of the burning alien fleet, Alina made a vow to herself. They were not done yet. The alien fleet was in disarray. Alina's heart pounded as she watched the chaos unfold outside the shuttle's windows. The mothership, once a symbol of invincible power, was now a burning wreck, slowly being pulled apart by the violent explosions. But the remaining ships were far from surrendering. They were regrouping quickly, desperate to retaliate. Their weapons fired at anything that moved, targeting Earth's last hope, Alina and her team. Max swerved the shuttle, narrowly avoiding a blast that passed too close for comfort. The alien ships were determined to finish what they had started, and now they were hunting down the one human vessel that had dared to strike back. "We can't keep dodging forever," Max grunted as he pulled the shuttle into another evasive roll. "They're all over us. We need to make it back to base." "Not yet," Alina replied, her voice steady despite the growing danger. She could feel the weight of the Resistance's hopes resting on her. They had dealt a powerful blow, but this wasn't the end of the war. They still needed to strike again, push back these invaders once and for all. "Hold on, everyone," Alina ordered. "We're going for the final blow." Max shot her a questioning glance. "What do you mean?" "We're outnumbered, and they're closing in fast." "Just trust me," Alina said. Her mind was working at lightning speed, trying to piece together a plan in the chaos. They had made it this far, and they couldn't afford to fail now. Alina had one last secret weapon, a series of satellites they had repurposed from Earth's old defense network. They were old, but they still had the capability to fire an EMP burst that could disable alien technology within a wide radius. The satellites had been a backup plan, and now they were their only hope to disrupt the alien fleet's remaining forces long enough for the Resistance to finish the job. "I'm sending a signal to the satellites now," Alina said, fingers flying across the shuttle's control panel. Once they activate, the EMP will take out their shields and weapons. We need to get close enough to hit them before they can retaliate." Max looked out the window, eyes narrowing at the approaching alien ships. "You're asking for a miracle." "We don't need a miracle," Elena said, her voice fierce. "We need a chance. That's all we've ever needed. We've taken on everything they've thrown at us so far. We're not stopping now." The shuttle sped through the burning skies, its hull rattling with each blast that narrowly missed. The alien ships were closing in, their energy cannons primed for destruction. Elena had no illusions about the danger they were in, but she couldn't afford to hesitate. She had promised herself that she would not allow Earth to fall, not while there was still a fight left to give. The first satellite activated, sending a powerful pulse into the sky. Elena watched the readout on the control panel. The alien ship shields began to flicker, their defenses temporarily knocked out by the EMP burst. It wasn't enough to disable the entire fleet, but it was a start. Max pushed the shuttle into a hard dive, using the momentary advantage to get closer to the alien ships. They were within range now. Elena's heart raced as she saw their weapons powering up once again, but this time, they weren't able to fully charge in time. "Now, Max," Elena shouted. Max jerked the shuttle upwards, flying straight toward the center of the alien formation. With a grim determination, he aimed the shuttle's remaining weapons and fired on the closest ship. The blast struck the enemy vessel's engines, sending it into a chaotic spiral. The remaining ships faltered as their coordination failed. The EMP pulses from the satellites were taking their toll. The shields were down, and the alien forces were scrambling. "Keep pushing," Elena urged. "We've got them on the ropes." But just as victory seemed within reach, a new threat emerged. The largest of the remaining alien ships, a monstrous warship, loomed ahead. It had been staying out of the fray, waiting for the right moment to strike. And now, it was coming in fast. "Elena, they're locking onto us," Max warned, his voice urgent. "This is it. We won't be able to dodge another hit." Elena's mind raced. There had to be a way. There had to be a way. Then a plan formed in her mind, one that would be risky, almost impossible, but it was their only shot. "Max, I need you to get us close enough to that warship," Elena said, her voice calm despite the adrenaline coursing through her veins. "We're going to board it." Max blinked in surprise. "What? You want us to board that thing?" "Yes," Elena said, her voice resolute. "We're going to take the fight to them. If we disable that ship, we can end this." Max didn't hesitate. He nodded, the fierce determination in his eyes matching Elena's. "Hold on tight, then. Let's finish this." With no other choice, they set course for the alien warship. The final stand had begun. The alien warship loomed larger with every passing second, its colossal form casting an imposing shadow over the battlefield. Elena's heart thudded in her chest, the stakes higher than ever. The shuttle shuddered as Max pushed it to the limit, dodging incoming fire while heading straight for the heart of the enemy ship. If they could board it, they could take out the ship's power core, cripple the aliens' ability to fight back, and turn the tide of the war for good. But it was a gamble, a risk that would cost them everything if they failed. Elena locked eyes with her team. They had come this far, surviving against impossible odds. Now, they would face the final challenge. She didn't need to say anything. The look in their eyes said it all. They were with her, no matter what. "Max, get us as close as you can," Elena ordered, gripping the seat in front of her as the shuttle rocked violently with each blast. "We board, take out their power core, and get the hell out. We don't have long." Max's voice was strained as he skillfully maneuvered the shuttle through the hail of enemy fire. "I know. Hold tight." As they approached the warship, Elena could see its weapon systems powering up, the deadly energy cannons charging. The ship was massive, the size of a city, with hundreds of weapon ports bristling along its surface. If they didn't act quickly, they would be reduced to a smoldering wreck before they even got inside. With a final burst of speed, Max brought the shuttle into a steep dive, avoiding a direct hit by mere inches. Alina's stomach lurched as the shuttle skidded across the warship's outer hull, sparks flying from the shuttle's shielding. "Now," Alina barked. Max slammed the shuttle's brakes, sending it hurtling toward a vulnerable section of the warship's docking area. The landing gear hit the ship's surface with a deafening thud, and for a moment, everything was still. Alina wasted no time. She grabbed the explosive charges and signaled to the team. "We plant these in their power core. Move fast. Stay sharp. We don't have much time." The team scrambled out of the shuttle, weapons drawn, as they made their way toward the hatch. The air was heavy with tension, the faint hum of alien technology vibrating through the walls of the ship. Alina's breath was steady, but her pulse raced. They were inside, and the countdown to the destruction of the warship had begun. As they moved deeper into the ship, Alina's eyes darted around, scanning every corner for threats. The warship's interior was a maze of corridors and towering chambers, all pulsating with the eerie blue glow of alien energy. Their footsteps echoed in the silence, a stark reminder that they were deep inside enemy territory, where every second counted. Suddenly, the quiet was shattered by the sound of heavy footsteps approaching. Alina's eyes snapped to the source, and she signaled for the team to take cover. The alien soldiers appeared from around the corner, their advanced weaponry glinting in the dim light. Without a word, they raised their rifles. "Get down," Alina shouted. A barrage of energy blasts flew past them, scorching the walls as the team returned fire. The firefight was brief but intense. The aliens were well-trained, but so were Alina's team. Within moments, they neutralized the threat, the soldiers falling one by one. "Keep moving," Alina said, barely pausing. They couldn't afford to lose any more time. They reached the central chamber of the warship, a vast room filled with alien machinery, glowing power conduits running along the walls. In the center of the room was the power core, pulsing with the energy that powered the entire ship. Alina approached the core, her hand steady as she planted the final explosive charge. The timer began ticking down, its red glow casting an eerie light over the chamber. She stepped back and turned to her team. "Time to go," she said, her voice calm, though her mind raced. They had done it. They had placed the charges. Now, they had to escape. But as they turned to leave, the floor trembled beneath their feet. The warship's alarms blared, signaling the imminent detonation. The countdown was down to the final seconds. "Move," Alina shouted. The team sprinted back toward the shuttle, their path now littered with wreckage and destroyed alien forces. The ship was already shaking, its systems faltering as the explosives began to destabilize its power core. The shuttle door slammed shut just as the warship's destruction reached its peak. Max's hands flew over the controls, and the shuttle shot upward, barely escaping the cataclysmic explosion that tore the warship apart. The shockwave from the blast rocked the shuttle, sending it spiraling into the air, but Max quickly righted the craft. Alina looked back one last time at the wreckage of the alien warship. It was gone. The battle had been won, but the war was far from over. "We did it," Alina said, her voice steady but filled with exhaustion. "We're not finished yet," Max replied, glancing at her with a weary smile. "But it's a start." As the shuttle rocketed away from the wreckage, Alina looked down at Earth. The fight was far from over, but humanity had just struck the first real blow, and she would make sure it wasn't the last.